I'll explore every legal avenue to expedite this matter and bring it to a swift conclusion. This farce of a prosecution will be revealed for what it is, and those responsible will be held accountable.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle. For the first time in nearly a century, a Texas governor faces criminal charges. Some are now calling on the governor to step down. Governor Rick Perry now faces 2 criminal counts. The first count, abuse of official capacity, says the governor misused government property by threatening to defund the Travis County Public Integrity Unit in June of last year after District Attorney Rosemary Lemberg was arrested for drunk driving. The second count says Governor Perry misused his power by trying to coerce Lemberg to resign or face the state pulling its funding from the Public Integrity Unit. Perry kept a low profile Friday night but was out walking his dog the next morning and spoke to the media a few hours later. Our Kevin Schwaller was at Governor Perry's press conference.
Governor Rick Perry is standing behind his veto, and he says he'll fight those he believes are motivated by politics.
This indictment amounts to nothing more than abuse of power.
Governor Perry said the public lost confidence in District Attorney Rosemary Lemberg in reference to her drunk driving case.
Do you believe the indictment alone at all affects the public's confidence in the office of the governor?
Here's what I think is really important for the people to...
The governor shifted the focus back on the district attorney.
I think Americans and Texans who have seen this agree with me that that is not an individual who is heading up an office that we can afford to fund.
26 million Texans woke up this morning not facing 2 felony indictments, and their governor did. This is unbecoming of the chief law enforcement official in Texas.
Executive director of the Texas Democratic Party is one of the Texans who doesn't agree with the governor.
His ambitions are to run for higher office, and in the process, he has abused his constitutional authority and his power here in Texas, and that's why he needs to step down.
And what effect this will have on possible political ambitions for the governor has yet to be seen.
That was KXAN's Kevin Schwaller. We reached out to Travis County District Attorney Rosemary Lemberg, who had no comment. This entire investigation began when a public interest group made a complaint a little more than a year ago. Now that their complaint has turned into an indictment, the Texans for Public Justice group is asking Perry to step down. Joining me now is the director of that group, Craig McDonald. Craig, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Your group has made quite a splash. Kind of tell me about the size and why you guys did this.
Yeah, well, we did it shortly after the governor came out, or it was made known that the governor had threatened the budget of the Travis County DA Public Integrity Unit. He did that on June 10th. It hit the papers on June 11th. We sat up and said, this is illegal. That's an abuse of his office. He can't threaten a sitting district attorney. He has no authority over her. He does have some authority over her budget. But we sat up and said, there must be a statute against this. We went looking for the law and we found it. We actually filed a criminal complaint against his action before he vetoed the budget. He has talked all along, I think it's a little red herring, that he had the authority to veto her budget. We have never disputed that. Yes, he has the authority to veto whatever he wants. This complaint and these indictments are not about his veto, though he would like to have the public believe that. They're really about his threats before the veto. He has the right to veto anything. He does not have the statutory authority to threaten another public official.
And your group is also behind complaints like the indictment with Tom DeLay and the recent complaint against Ken Paxton, who's running for Attorney General.
Correct.
Both Republicans. Perry's a Republican. He said himself this is a political issue. Yeah. What do you say to those critics that say you guys are just going after the Republicans?
Well, we've been here 16 years, and every top state official in that time has been a Republican. We have, in the course of our history, filed complaints against Democrats, similar complaints for abuse or corruption. So we're bipartisan in that respect. The governor, as he said in the press conference today, said this is just a political vendetta. This is politics being played by the Travis County District Attorney's Office. Well, the facts are the Travis County District Attorney's Office has nothing to do with this complaint, nothing to do with these indictments. We filed a complaint with Travis County because that's where we live, that's where you have to file it. The prosecutor there and the judges, as they should have, recused themselves. They passed our complaint up to Judge Billy Ray Stubblefield from Williamson County, Republican judge, oversees the whole judicial district, Republican appointed by Rick Perry. He read our complaint and thought, regardless of who we were, how partisan we were or nonpartisan, thought the complaint had merit. And he appointed another Republican judge from San Antonio to oversee this whole matter. That Republican judge went out and appointed a special prosecutor who is a Republican prosecutor who served in the federal prosecutor's office under George W. Bush. For the governor to say that this is just politics being played doesn't square with the facts.
You mentioned the prosecutor. Many people in the political realm, not just Republicans, say this will be difficult for a prosecutor to prove that something criminally wrong has happened with Perry's case.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how he's going to prove that going forward. I think he made a case to the grand jury, and they believed that there was certainly enough reason to proceed with a trial. When we always thought this complaint had merit. We have filed a number of these. We have never filed a complaint against a politician that was turned back to us. All of them have had validity. We thought this one did. We looked at it and said, this has merit. If you read the law and you follow the facts of what the governor did, there's no disputing in our minds, we're not the final jury, but in our minds there was no disputing that what he did crossed the line from bullying to law breaking.
Who's next? You got other complaints in the works?
No, we're tired.
All right, Craig, thank you for being with us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. By now, we've heard the responses from politicians across the spectrum, from Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst standing by Perry, saying he was disappointed with Travis County's attempt to criminalize state politics, in Governor Perry's case, threatening a veto if a state subdivision did not act responsibly. Democrats, however, blasted Perry, some saying he should step down. Congressman Joaquin Castro posted this tweet: "For the sake of Texas, Governor Perry should resign following his indictment." The indictments are being met with sharp reaction from Texas Republicans. Our Robert Hadlock spoke with Matt Makoviak, Vice Chairman of the Travis County Republican Party.
I think on the legal merits, the case is pretty weak. Generally, when you talk about indictments of political officials, you're talking about them doing something from public resources to benefit themselves. The governor didn't benefit from this at all. But ultimately, what matters is in the near term, is he able to successfully defend himself during the criminal prosecution? I think he will.
What do you think this will do for his presidential aspirations if indeed he goes forward with it?
Yeah, what's interesting is you had Perry in 2012 when the president's campaign ended. He was at probably the lowest he's been in his political career, and he's very slowly and methodically built back up over the past 2 years.
That was Robert Hadlock. One of Governor Perry's attorneys, David Botsford, released a statement. It reads in part, "Friday's actions, which violates the separation of powers outlined in the Texas Constitution, is nothing more than an effort to weaken the constitutional authority granted to the office of the Texas governor, and sets a dangerous precedent by allowing a grand jury to punish the exercise of the lawful and constitutional authority afforded to the Texas governor." KXAN's David Scott took an in-depth look at Perry's attorney.
For now, Rick Perry's defense will be paid for out of the governor's fund, taxpayer expense. And noted defense counsel Sam Bassett says it won't be cheap.
It's safe to say the legal fees will be in the six figures.
High six figures.
Right.
Those fees would be for highly regarded, highly paid attorney David Botsford. $400 an hour and up, they say. But there's a nasty caveat for the governor.
In some cases, if the person is convicted of a crime, they may have to repay that amount.
Really? In some cases?
In some cases.
Do we know in this case?
I do not know in this case.
3 or 4 attorneys at least will work the case. They probably started already. But Sam Bassett says they're in for a long haul.
Obviously, it's going to be a publicity situation, and the courts are going to be sensitive to that. So the cases in those instances usually move more slowly. If lightning struck and they tried the case as soon as I could imagine, it would be at least 6 months. I think more likely it could be as long as a year or 2.
He could well be out of office.
Yes.
The special prosecutor would not comment on any possible change of venue. So what are Perry's chances?
What about a change of venue?
I think it's a difficult issue with the governor because a change of venue for a statewide elected official, you're going to have to show that the atmosphere in Travis County is so hostile toward him that he can't receive a fair trial. I think that's an uphill battle, frankly.
As for that possible White House run, well, the law waits for no man. David Scott, KXAN News.
For some perspective, indictments against sitting governors are very rare. In fact, the last time it happened in Texas was nearly a century ago. In 1917, a Travis County grand jury indicted Governor James Paul Ferguson on charges of embezzlement and misapplication of public funds. That came after he vetoed almost all of the funding for the University of Texas. He was later impeached by lawmakers. Just a reminder, this is an indictment, not a conviction. The burden of proof is less, just probable cause, not beyond a reasonable doubt. So what happens next? The governor will be processed early in the week, taking a mugshot, getting his fingerprints taken. However, he'll likely not spend time in prison. What does this indictment mean, and how did we get here? It's the past and the future. We talk with two men who have followed Perry's careers for years. Coming up next on the State of Texas in Depth.